I have nothing but admiration for the writing of Guy Gavriel Kay. To my mind, he breaks many of the so-called rules that are supposed to be essential for penning great fantasy, but nevertheless succeeds with flying colours. He does little to hide the fact that the worlds he sets his stories in are thinly disguised historical periods. He changes a few names. For example, the city of Byzantium becomes Sarantium. It might be better to describe his novels as historical fantasy. Some have described them as historical fiction, but that is not accurate, and the author himself has bridled at such a description. However you categorise his work, you cannot argue with his success. He's been writing for more than 40 years, and his work is so popular it has been translated into 22 languages. He has a reputation for doing exhaustive and meticulous research. He spends a year in research before he starts the process of writing a new book. My favourite novel by Kay is Under Heaven, which is set in an alternate 8th century Tang Dynasty China. I live in China. I've written 3 non-fiction books based on the history of the Middle Kingdom. My own fantasy trilogy is based on ancient Chinese mythology from 1,000 years before the time Kay writes about. I can attest to the fact that Guy Gavriel Kay has done his homework. He brings the Tang dynasty to life using his own inimitable style. Mixing fantasy with history, he's penned an epic, unputdownable book. Under Heaven is written by an expert storyteller at the height of his powers. He's reimagined ancient China as convincingly as he did medieval France, Ottoman Spain, and Renaissance Italy. I understand that he spent 7 years researching Under Heaven rather than just 1 year as he did for most of his other books. The story begins with Shen Tai, who has lived in solitude for 2 years by a mountain lake mourning his father. It's a place where terrible battles have been waged between the Khitai Empire, the name Kay gives the Tang, and the neighbouring Tagurans, including one battle in which his father, a great general, fought. Tai's father abhorred the brutal slaughter involved. The bones of 100,000 soldiers from that battle still lie unburied. To honour his father's memory, Tai has laboured alone to bury the dead of both empires. Then a letter arrives. Tai will be given 250 Sardian horses by the mortal enemies of Khitai, the Tagurans. The Tagurans are giving these legendary steeds to him as a reward for not only burying the fallen from his own land, but theirs as well. Now Tai must return to the court of the Khitai emperor and navigate dangerous waters. To give a man even one of these famed steeds is to honour him greatly, but for the enemy to give him so many makes things complicated and puts Shen Tai's life in danger. Guy Gavriel Kay is not only one of the best fantasy writers around, he's also an award-winning poet. His love of verse is very evident throughout the book. The Tang is known as a golden age of Chinese poetry. 50,000 verses from that dynasty survive to this day. Kay's inspiration for Shen Tai's story lies in a poem written by the 8th century Chinese poet Li Po regarding the unburied bones of dead soldiers littering a desolate battlefield. To my mind, Under Heaven and another book he set in a later Chinese dynasty, River of Stars, which has a female protagonist, are his best work. But I am biased by my love of Chinese history and legend. There are many who would disagree. I understand why. His novel, Sailing to Sarantium, and its follow-up, Lord of Emperors, are excellent. Both books were inspired by 6th century Byzantium. I have a feeling that if the Eastern Roman Empire floats your boat, rather than the ancient dynasties of China, then you might well think these are his best work. But I don't think any lover of fantasy will be disappointed, whichever book of his they choose to read. Well, that's all for this episode. If you like these podcasts and find them useful, please follow or subscribe and share them with your friends. If you want to help with the cost of making them, you can buy me a cup of coffee.